This episode is brought to you by Americas Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the Archer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Arcast. My name is Buddha, and I am solo dolo today in the studio. Last week was an amazing week. We got a lot of stuff done. Been grinding it out, trying to do a lot of promotion for the Arcast, going back and forth to IOP, going to meet with the clients and stuff. And we had the blessing of having Miss Carla in here. And the episode was awesome, man. We got to hear a lot of amazing things. And she had told me that, that you were inquiring about wanting to come on to the show too. And I'm going to introduce Miss Vanessa here in a second, but I wanted to apologize to you because, like I told Carla, I don't know why, it sounds really strange, but I get really awkward around people, and I just didn't. I feel like it's so weird to be like, hey, so you want to come on the radio? You know what I mean? But I told her, I said, man, let's connect. Please introduce me to Miss Vanessa. I want to get her on here as soon as possible, and I got her in the studio with me. So, ladies and gentlemen, please get up out your seat. Give a huge round of applause to RSS BHT Miss Vanessa.
Hey guys.
Yeah. I really want to thank you for coming through.
You're welcome.
How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful today.
Yeah?
I think I look back on a lot of things and realize, now that I'm doing the next right thing, that I'm truly blessed and I'm happy.
Man, that's awesome. And, thank you so much for taking interest in wanting to come through. Like I said, that whole story, I think it's so, I feel stupid saying it sometimes, but yeah, I just get socially awkward. But no, I really appreciate the interest in you wanting to come through, and Miss Carla was saying nothing but positive and awesome things about you and stuff. So thank you for blessing us.
It wasn't even like I knew you did this, so I was like, I need to get in there. I need to go. But I also had this thought of doing storytelling on TikTok and share my story with them and see where it would go. And I was like, let me start somewhere else first before I
for sure
reach out there.
That's exactly the same kind of motion, trying to go into just doing some positivity. Been kind of looking at different stories on the news and all kinds of crazy shit that's been going on in the world. I feel like now more than ever, we have to have beauty and put that positivity out there for people, because most people don't have that.
Because I think a lot of people don't realize that they can be successful in recovery. They feel like they'll fail every time. And hearing positive recovery stories is beneficial to them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was talking to my wife right now. We need prayer warriors, by the way. My wife just called. The family member's not doing too good. And so, guys, if you can, please just pray. Pray for the family members. My brother-in-law, I guess he wasn't doing too good today. But a family member that we had, he was locked up for the majority of the time when my wife and I first got together. And I knew he had substance abuse stuff. And he had reached out. I posted a video on TikTok, as a matter of fact, a week or so ago, and he reached out and was like, yo, dude, I'm in recovery. I want to come through and share my testimony. And we ended up getting on the phone today, and it's the most I've ever spoken with him. But it's just one of those things, when you're in that world of recovery, when you're in that mindset, it's just so easy to come to people and talk and chop it up. You know what I mean?
When you're using, you shut down. You completely don't want anybody in your business. You don't want them to judge you or question you. So you just keep to yourself.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. How much recovery do you have, man?
18 months.
18 months. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And is this the first spot that you worked?
Yeah. Well, I worked at La Frontera for about 6 months in a step-down unit. So I watched them sleep at night. I didn't really get into details with them or get to know them or run groups with them.
Oh, wow. And how early into your recovery did you start doing that?
About maybe 9 months.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a little bit less. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, before we start going into all of those things, typical fashion of the Arcast is we kind of go deep and allow the listeners talking about your life, where you come from, where you were born, things like that, just to allow people to be able to relate, whether they're in recovery or they're people that are just kind of barely starting to get an understanding of it for the first time. So let's go back to the beginning, Miss Vanessa. Where are you from?
I was born in Abilene, Texas.
Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, it's a little town by Merkel, Texas. They still have brick roads. They have one stop sign, a Piggly Wiggly, super family-oriented town.
Place is bomb.
Yeah.
I heard Piggly Wiggly. That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. What part of Texas? Where's it located on the state?
A little, maybe an hour away from Dallas, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Northeast?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. It's so big. It's beautiful out there.
Beautiful.
So you lived there your whole life?
No, I lived there. My mom met my stepdad and we moved to Guam. So I was mostly raised on Guam. Yeah.
On Guam.
Yeah.
Military?
Yeah. On a military base.
I think it's very interesting. And we'll go into it in a little bit, but I think it's very interesting. A lot of the stories that we have are from military families, people in the military. Yeah. And my theory, this is not, I don't know shit. Okay. I'm dumb. But like for me, my theory is that having, like a plant, right? I always look at things like an analogy. When a plant is in a nurturing soil, it has an opportunity to grow.
Correct.
To become a beautiful plant. When the plant is ripped out from the soil and constantly replanted in different places, it kind of loses not the beauty, but it's like the rose that grew from concrete. It's harder to have nourishment in that.
I think it's harder to build relationships that way.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you feel alone. You don't really have anybody you can connect with.
Man. So you said that was your stepfather, right?
Yes.
Do you have any relationship with your birth father?
So for the longest time, it was just cards and money in the mail. After I had my son and he was really sick, I said, I need to find this man. I don't know what was that I needed to find him for. Yeah. But I looked for him and Googled things and I emailed him and it said, you cannot contact this person. And I was like, what the heck? And then it asked you a question like, why do you want to contact them? So I just answered the question and I got a text later that night and he called me and he was like, crying, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. You don't know how much I've missed you. And in the back of my head, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
really?
I'm 30 something years old and you never reached out. You didn't do anything. Like the last time I saw you, you showed up at my 16th birthday and brought roses and got mad that I had plans. Like, how do you love me so much all of a sudden, call me crying? And we would talk off and on for a little while and then he would disappear for a while. But I always wanted to keep that window open because you never know. And maybe a month ago, he reached out and he was like, what do the kids want for Christmas? Like, you never even met your grandkids, but I'm going to tell you what they want because it's time for you to do something.
Wow. So when you were growing up, Vanessa, like, what did your mom tell you about your dad?
Not very much. Here your dad sent you a letter and it would say, Merry Christmas, love Dad, or nothing really intense. But I was always my stepdad.
Wow. From as young as you can remember, your stepdad was the one who took that. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. I think, everyone deserves to have that positive male role model and woman in their life. You know what I mean? Wow. And did you have any siblings?
I have 2 sisters.
2 sisters.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, that's a lot of drama in that house. I got one baby girl. You heard me just telling Carla about her. Woo. That's cool. Okay. So you have your 2 sisters. You were raised like that. How did you do in school? For the most part, were you a good student? Did you get in sports, anything?
Yeah. On the base, they have something called a youth center and you can sign up for sports. So they started us on softball and then they put us in basketball and I grew to love basketball. That was my thing. That's cool. I started playing in school. I played through high school. I went in Japan and played. Like, it was really fun.
Dang, you went all the way to Japan? That's cool.
Yeah, I played in a big tournament out there.
Wow. All right. So, like, as far as your childhood goes, would you say that you had a pretty decent childhood?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Mom had a daycare out of the house. She was always home. She cooked. She cleaned. She was there. When we had games, she would show up. When she did start work, she still made sure to be there for us, whether she would pop in for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but she was always there.
And, kind of touching on a couple things, I know you had said that you had reached out to your biological father. You didn't know for what for.
Yeah.
It kind of ties into my next question, which is like, I think everybody, whether you have a stepfather or stepmother, someone who comes in and plays that role in your life, right? I think there's still that hole, if you could say that, like on the inside of like, for one, why isn't my biological father here? I'm sure there's certain traits and things that you see in yourself that you don't get from your mom. It's kind of like, did I get it from this person or whatever? So I think as human beings, and please disagree with me if you don't think I'm right or if I'm right or whatever, but I feel like we all have that sense of longing of wanting to know where we come from. Not only that, but the closure.
Yeah. I feel like something was missing. I needed to reach out. I haven't asked him a lot of questions. I haven't gone in depth with him, but I also know that he's probably 10 years older than my mom. So I feel like he's getting older and maybe he has some regret setting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he anybody in your family? Were they addicts at anything like that?
No, my mom drank, but nothing out of control or anything crazy. And it was just pretty much me, like, honestly.
Wow. And your father, you don't know if he had any issues like that? Wow.
When I try to I went to rehab or, he never engages, he'll change the subject. So I don't think he was ready to talk about it.
Yeah. Wow. How interesting. So Okay, so you started growing up. You did pretty good in school. Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
And at what age did you start dabbling with substances?
So I graduated high school and I thought I was so grown. I moved out. I started working at Long John Silver's, and the owner's children worked there, and they became my best friends, but they were also older than me. So everything that they did, I wanted to try, of course, because I want to experiment things. So I would say maybe 19.
19 years old?
Yeah.
Were you keeping a job? You're pretty good, though?
Oh, yeah. I had 2 jobs. Yeah.
Hustler, holding it down. Okay. And so 19, you didn't have kids at this time?
No, not yet.
And take us through that, from 19 to when you started dabbling. How long were you able to maintain that before the drug use became a hindrance?
I think I did. I thought I was doing well, like everybody does, a functioning addict. I still worked 2 jobs. I did what I needed to do. I moved in with the girls I was partying with. So now it was like all day, every day,
Enabling.
Yeah. Going to work at night, carrying a bullet of Coke in my pocket because I need to make sure I have a bump to keep going, like things like that.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And how long did that last? You said from 19 to about how long?
Ooh, I'm 39 probably, like almost 40, 38. I got pregnant with my daughter, and I remember freaking out because I didn't gain weight. I didn't get sick. There was no symptoms. And when the girls were like, "You're being a bitch, Vanessa, there's something wrong with you. You're never like this." And they made me take a test, and I just slid down the wall in the bathroom like, this can't be happening. Wow. And when I finally went to the doctor, I was like, my baby's going to have one eye, one nostril. Like, she's going to be all fucked up. And she was like, well, we're going to do this. And we figured it out. I quit using while I was pregnant. It was a simple pregnancy, nothing too crazy. I had her. She was healthy. She was diagnosed with autism, like later on, probably like 3-4 years old. But even though staying clean after I had her, when I turned 21, shit hit the fan. I was like, I'm supposed to be out at the clubs. I'm supposed to be partying. I can't do this. My mom kind of caught on that I was like up all night, and I would sneak out and put the baby to sleep and leave. And she realized when I would meet my dealer. So she was like, we're going to go get some tea from Long John's. And I was like, why? And we pull up outside, and she goes, well, aren't you going to call him? And I kind of looked at her like, what are you talking about? She was like, isn't this where you meet him? What do you meet him for?
Oh, dang.
And I'm like, oh.
Your mom's a G.
Yeah.
That's crazy. She found that out, huh?
Yeah.
And wow. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? I mean, it's kind of sad to say that we consider children adults at 18 years old because shit, at 20, 21, I'm still doing dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Dumb stuff. So it's like 18 years old is not an adult, and we're forced to act like that. All these things are going on. I'm guessing the gentleman that you had this child with was not somebody you were married to or anything like that.
No,
Just,
he was actually, I met him getting out on work release, and he would go to work, come see us for a little bit, go back to the mission and stay there. And then when he got out, he moved in with us, and I got pregnant really fast. And
yeah. And so how did that go once when your mom initially found that out? Was she did you think you were pretty good at hiding it, like nobody
at first,
knew?
Yeah. But I'm sure when you're doing coke all day every day, like somebody's gonna notice that something's not right.
Your pupils are bigger than your eyes.
Right.
That's funny. And how did it how long did you continue doing that for? Like, how old was your baby girl when you have one baby?
I have 2. I have
two
my daughter's 19 now, my son's 15.
Okay.
I truly never stopped, honestly. My mom and I got into it one night, and I packed my shit and I left. I left my daughter with her, and I went to do the 21-year-old things. Like,
yeah,
I would pop in just to say hi or not pop in at all. And I just lived in my addiction. I worked and got high.
Man. And at what point in your life, I know you said like with work release and stuff like that, were you starting to build up like a lot of different crimes like on your record and stuff like that?
No. I didn't catch my first charge until 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Guys, if you hear a bunch of movement, they just wanted to wait until we started recording to start moving furniture. Nothing too drastic, just furniture and things getting slammed up there. So 2017, that was the first time you got a charge.
Yeah.
What ended up happening? How did you get that?
Oh, so like I'll lead up to it. So after a while, I decided that I needed to go to rehab. I was like seeing things, hearing people, like it was bad.
Oh man.
And when I went to check into the detox, people were crawling around on the floor, banging their heads on the wall. And in my head, I'm like, there's nothing fucking wrong with me. Like, I don't need to be here. Do you see these people? Like, I'm not doing that. They put you in the chair. That once you put the wristband on, I was stuck for 24 hours regardless. So I just took it all in. The next morning, he was like, you want to go? And before I went, I met this guy who in my head was like this perfect, wonderful guy that I wanted to be with. He like made everything sound wonderful. Well, I didn't tell him I was leaving. I just checked in and decided to go 45 days in a rehab. And when I got out, I was doing really, really well. And I didn't reach out to him. I didn't call him. But the day I got my own apartment, he called me and things kind of just hit the fan. Like not running like right away, but I moved in with him. Like I left my apartment, moved in with him, and he started abusing me every day. Maybe not every day, but he drank a lot and he smoked a lot of meth. And on his bad days, I was his punching bag for whatever reason. And I would go to work, go to school, come home, and just try not to piss him off because I was like, I must be doing whatever he thinks I'm doing. So I better just chill. Like, don't say anything, don't do anything. And that went on for a few, maybe 2 years, 3 years almost. And the January 1st of 2015, New Year's Eve was great, like no issues. That morning he woke up and drank a gallon of vodka, and I was getting ready in the bathroom and he kicked in the door and he hit me in the face. And I had never hit him back before, but that day I turned around and I just knocked the fuck out of him. Like I was mad. And it started, I want to say close to a 2-hour fight that I was fighting with him and handling all the beating. And he had broke my hand. He stabbed me with this knife. He punched me in my spine so many times. I was in pain. And he would say, if you do this line of coke, I'll leave you alone. So I was like, fuck it, let's do the line of coke. I would do it and he would hit me. So the next time he said it, I was kind of in that mindset already. Like, I'm probably going to die today. So I might as well just get high and like not feel the pain that's coming. And the last time he choked me, like I passed out. Like there was I literally thought I was done. That it was the last time. Yeah.
How scary.
Very.
I always go back to faith. For me, I'm a big faithful person. We've talked about a lot of times on this show where it's like, most people can't even see the mess in their life. Right. Therefore, they can't clean it, right? You have to be able to observe it and see it first. So by you going to a rehab facility, that's your first chance of being able to get that veil removed from your eyes, to be able to see the mess and just try and clean it up. 45 days, you said, at this facility. You're doing fantastic. You're doing good. You're doing exactly what God put you on this earth to do, which is to help people, right? And then the moment you leave, or more significantly, the day that you get your new apartment, you get this phone call. And isn't it crazy? Like when you see the stories here, right? It's always either a man or a woman is one of the biggest triggers that make people fuck up and jump right back into it. And it's not just a man or it's not just a woman. It's like you said, it's this perfect man or this perfect woman, perfect dimensions, everything. And they're like the enemy in disguise. Yeah.
And it never like to hit me was never a reason. There was never a reason. It was never okay to do that. But I took it almost like in a sense, I don't want him to hurt anybody else. I might as well just deal with the 5 minutes that he's mad and keep going. This day, I don't know why I took it so, probably because he'd never hit me in the face, and that's what he did that day. Like,
ooh, it's a rough thing too, because, for one, a lot of people don't like to admit that they've gone through similar situations, when in reality, there's probably more people out there that have experienced something similar to that than not. It's such a cowardly thing to be physically abusive to. Like, I know, knowing my mom has always told me, if you ever lay your hands on somebody, I will kick your ass myself, type of thing, But it's crazy to think like the dynamics of certain people. I'm so sorry you had to go through that for 2 years.
I don't think his mom was ever really like that. She had seen him hit me and didn't do anything. She was like, I'll take you to your apartment. Like, never scold him or yell at him but I deep down think she was afraid of him as well. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you said your baby girl was with your mom, right? Yeah. So it's not that she didn't have to see any of those things.
No, my son, I had my son by then, and he was there, but he never did that in front of my kid. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's good. So 2 years. And I it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, a person can only take so much.
Yeah.
so much pain, so much sadness, so much abuse until eventually they snap. And thank God nothing else came from that.
No, I think it was a little bit of everything. You know, my father's dad cheated on me with my friend, and then my son's dad did the same thing. So I think it just kind of like holding in all these emotions and feelings. And that was just kind of like the last straw when I didn't testify. He was looking at 75 years for all the stuff that he did. Jeez. And I did not testify. He got 3.5 years. And in my head, like him saying, sorry, everything was okay. Like he's not going to do it again. I love this guy. I'm just going to stay with him. So for probably 2 years while he was in prison, I still lived in our house, answered his phone calls, wrote him letters, sent him pictures, did all the things that I was supposed to do. But going to therapy, and the therapist, sometimes he would just shake his head like, what are you thinking? Like, what is going on? And one day, I don't even know, another guy came into my life, and I dated him for a while back in the day, and he said all the right things. Like, and I had told him, you know, you don't want me. I'm broken. Like, you can't. I'm in pieces right now. And he said, I'm going to fix those pieces and put it back together. And it just kind of stuck. Like, maybe this is where I need to be. And in 6 months we were married, and it wasn't what it was supposed to be.
Same thing. Same type of thing.
No abuse, but he was a big dealer. Like, he went back and forth from Mexico doing things and picking up and running, and he would transport drugs. And this is how I caught my Fed case.
You know, I almost feel, and maybe it does come from that situation of when you have an absent family member in your life, because I think there's certain similarities too, where there's almost like a sense of, and it's sad to say, but I just remember this so much, but it's like a sense of like unworthiness. Like you almost feel like you deserve to be treated that way, and you deserve, because there's nothing, you know what I mean? Especially when it's like repeated, like you said, your baby's daddy cheated on you, and then this person abused you. It's like, I mean, there's nobody fucking good in this world, like, obviously.
At some point, I would think, you know, my dad left, so all these guys are going to leave anyway. I'm just going to handle what comes my way. I'm not going to really try hard to find somebody that's good enough or that deserves me, because they're just going to leave anyway.
Man, no, that's real. And good for you, you know, like you said, being in therapy. When did you start doing that? So
right after the domestic violence, the advocates from the courthouse told me I had to start therapy. So I was like, okay, like I'll go. And I would go in there and spill my heart out and cry, and oh, I miss him and I love him. And when I met my husband, I told him, I was like, oh, I'm going to leave. And he was like, you have no idea how bad I wanted to shake you sometimes and be like, wake up. Like, he's not going to change. He's not going to get out and be okay. And my husband and I caught the Fed case together. He got sentenced to 3 years, and I was that wife. Took care of him, sent him money, sent letters, made sure he had what he needed, went to go visit. When he got out a month later, he left. So my addiction was, after the abuse came back head on, like full force, like I couldn't stop. Like,
yeah. And I mean, think of everything. I mean, at the time, it's that situation that you feel is what makes you relapse. But you think about everything, the situation with your daughter, every failed relationships, like every little thing kind of chips a little way at you. And when you're in the middle of using, you're not able, like I say, you're not able to see that mess. It's not until you get all of that out of your life and go into the therapy, like you said, going to treatment, when you start being able to fix those broken pieces. Yeah. Up until that point, you're just numbing yourself.
Yeah. Every day.
At what age did the recovery come into your life? Like, other than that, like, I know you said you had gone for that 45 days initially, but did you ever think about going back to treatment again after that? Or did you feel like
No, I think that at that time, I was still living in our house. I was using and drinking all the time and going to school and working. I took care of my son. I didn't have any reason to go. In my head, I had no reason to go. When I got put on pretrial, she was like, you know, you can't use, but you can drink. And I was like, well, why not? But I would still continuously drop dirty for them, always. And one day she was like, I'm going to lock you up if you drop dirty again. And I was like, well. And when I came in, I was like, I'm going to drop dirty today. And they put me in for 45 days at CCA on a violation.
Oh, man.
And I was like, no. And then she's like, I'm going to let you out, but you're going to rehab. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want to. So I went, and I went through the motions and did what she asked me to do, thinking it would help me not get a felony charge. I got out. I did the 90 days in residential. I did 90 days in IOP. But the IOP I went to, you could leave and go to work and come back. That day that I was supposed to get released, they dropped me and I was dirty. I don't know if it was, I feel like it was self-sabotage. Like I was doing so good and finally feeling like normal again. I didn't want to leave that secure place.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I think that's a very vital thing for you to discuss because it really is true. I mean, we see it here, and it's been a long time since we've talked about this, but I love driving in because when you know the clients and you know the people, it's just a positive environment.
It really is.
And I think everyone is just as fragile as we are, where it's like, we need that support. We need that, like, hey, what's up? Good morning. We need that positivity because we're right on the edge all the damn time working in a place like this.
And I told them, you know, I had no structure. I was a hot fucking mess.
Man.
When I went to residential and went to IOP, they taught me why I am the way that I am. I have structure in my life. I have expectations. I refuse to let anybody disrespect me. And like, I wouldn't have that if I didn't go through what I went through. And I'm so thankful for them. And I try to give these clients what I had. I go over the same rules every day and they probably hate it so much. But I tell them, you are in such a bubble right now. When you get out, that's when shit gets real. You need to take in what we tell you. You need to handle the structure, do what you need. Because when you get out, if you can't follow these rules, you will not be successful.
It's true.
Yeah.
Having to develop, like, I mean, it's just as, what is the word I'm thinking of? It's like people, you have to get into the habit of waking up early, setting your alarm clock, brushing your teeth, getting out of the house. Like, it seems like ridiculous for someone to be like, hey, brush your teeth. It's like with my daughter, I have to tell her ass all the time, brush your teeth, do this. But we're trying to build those healthy habits because if once you leave this bubble, if you haven't established a healthy set of coping skills and habits on the outside, most of us are going back to that same shit that we left. You know, and it's that's why there's so much relapse and shit.
I feel like I wish I would have I was a little bit more structured with my son than my daughter. And I thought me messing up after the domestic violence would ruin my son. But just recently, like a couple weeks ago, he thanked me for instilling respect into him and thanking me for disciplining him when he needed it and keeping him in line and making sure, you know, I called his teachers every week to make sure his homework was being done. And he was very appreciative. Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And I could, you know, hearing your story and I don't know what it is, but it's, I could tell that you're good at being like a mom. I could just see it. There's a lot of doing that type of thing. I tell my wife all the time, like she goes above and beyond, calling the school. How's the homework? How's this? How's that? You have to do that. And I think the guilt and shame is another huge part of the addiction too, where it's like you said, you felt like the domestic abuse would affect your son and make things worse. But in reality, that's kind of like almost like a choice too at the same time for him. And he decided that it's not going to be. He decided he's going to learn from that. Thank you. He sees the struggles, the stuff that you had to go through, and he has a deeper sense of respect towards you because he sees you now and where you're at now.
And there's a lot of guilt and shame on my end for that. I didn't give my daughter all that I gave my son. You know, I chose addiction over her, and I feel like it messed her up where she's going to struggle. I mean, she's struggling right now, and I wish I could help her, but I can't. I didn't want help when I was her age, so how am I going to push it on her?
How old is she right now?
19.
She's 19. Are you guys pretty close at least at the moment? Not right now?
No, we don't talk. After I got sentenced to probation for my felony case, she moved back in with me, and I thought things were going really good, and she got a girlfriend, and I told her I didn't want the girl around. Like, I let her stay for a little while, but something in the back of my head was like, this girl is not good. Yeah. And my mom would be like, she's trouble. I keep telling you guys, don't let her around. And one day I just saw it myself, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And she came over. I'd kicked her out of my house. She came over and was in my daughter's head, and she ended up leaving in the middle of the night, and I'm chasing her down the street. And she apparently called the cops and told them, like, I threw her in the street, that we had a huge verbal altercation, and they put out a stop and arrest warrant on me, which none of that happened.
Yeah.
I took the charges, though. That's my kid. I'm not gonna, you know, I don't know what would happen if I was like, she's lying, but I didn't want to put her in the court system. I didn't want her to have that.
To have to deal with that.
Yeah. I knew what it was like, and it would have just been a little, you know, she lied to court or whatever, but I didn't want her to have anything like that. But in the end, she caught a case herself. So,
Man, well, it kind of comes full circle in a sense. Like you said, there was a certain age in your life where you didn't even know why, but you wanted to reach out to your biological father.
yeah.
You said this was well into your 30s already at this point. So so I do think that there is a sense of like resilience that kids have where right now for you specifically, you might not, the relationship might not be where you would like it to be. But your baby girl is going through her own route in life right now, but it's going to come to a point, and I truly believe this in my heart. It's going to come to a point where she's going to have that same, that same longing for connection with her mom.
I hope so.
And, and because it really is what it is, right? You grow up and you have this resentment towards your parent, for example. Like, why did my pops leave? Why did this? Why did that?
Yeah.
But as you grow older, you're like, damn, dude, like the world is pretty fucked up. People go through a lot of stuff. People make an effort to try and be involved in your life. Who knows? Maybe your dad, gives your kids some Christmas presents this year, even though Christmas isn't about that, but maybe he tries, right? And at that point, it's just really, at least to me, I feel like it's the effort.
Yeah.
Being able to make that effort. If your daughter wanted to come and talk to you right now, you would be more than willing to.
Of course, yeah.
Man, well, we will definitely pray that connection, comes together. More prayer warriors out there. So you went, and this was after the domestic abuse case, you went and you did the rehab thing again.
Yeah.
And you started learning a lot about what happened and how to compartmentalize all of this stuff in your life.
And it really took, honestly, even after I relapsed, they put me back in residential for 30 days. And a girl came to share her story. And this is where I think the true turning point came. I would always say, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. I got this under control. She shared her story and she said, I used to carry a bottle of vodka in my purse. And when my mom would say something, I would say, fuck you very much, don't tell me what to do. And just that phrase that she said, I kind of looked at her like, what the hell? And it made me think, like, somebody thinks like I do. Maybe there is something wrong. Maybe I'm not where I'm supposed to be in life. I need to get my shit together. Like, she's up here telling her story. She's got this amazing job. She's clean. She's doing what she needs to do. That's when I started paying attention. That's when I started interacting in class, sharing in group, paying attention in therapy, doing what I needed to do.
Wow. Those little moments, huh? Like that little wake-up call.
Yeah. And I wish, like, when I look back on it, I wish I remembered her name because I would probably thank her. Like,
man, you never know. You might run into her again someday.
Yeah.
So that was a huge turning point for you. And at that moment, those wheels were turning.
Yeah.
Man. And so how many years has that been? You said was that 19 months ago?
Yeah. About. I did relapse again after that. And I went to CCA again for 3 months.
Okay.
And when I got out, I was like, that's it. Like, we're not doing this again. And I got super, super lucky when I went to trial. They kept me until my sentencing date. And I thought for sure I was going to get time in prison. They were going to ship me. And I'd never been to prison before. I was scared to death. And for whatever reason, my lawyer, freaking amazing, got me 3 years of supervised release.
Man, that's a God shot right there. That's cool. And what happened? Because I think this is a very important thing to talk about, Vanessa. You said you had that moment of awakening at the rehab, and this is very, very common.
Yeah.
You had that moment of awakening, but yet you still relapsed at one last time. What ended up happening that you did that?
So really, I think it had to be with the gun charge that I got.
Really?
I was doing okay, and just the pressure of everything going on, and I in the back of my head, I'm going to prison for a long time. They're gonna When ATF and Homeland Security showed up, I was scared to death. Like, I'd never been in trouble before. Never been in handcuffs, never in the back of a car. And my then husband was in prison, so I was doing everything by myself, going to court, going to this, talking to the lawyers, doing all this stuff, and I couldn't give the feds what they wanted. I didn't know anybody in the ring. My husband said, this guy wants you to buy a gun, and I was like, bet, like, he's gonna pay me, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, thank God I did not buy that fucking gun. Like, I went into the gun store, signed the paper, and there's a question that says, like, is it for you or someone else? And I told them the truth that it wasn't for me, and he wouldn't sell me the gun. And I think, honestly, that had to save me at some point. I still got a felony charge for conspiracy, but it could have been worse.
Man, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you believe in coincidences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do.
What was your thought process on faith before any of this? Were you a faithful person?
You know, my stepdad was very religious. We did go to church. I feel like at some point, especially when the abuse started, I felt like God had let me down in a sense. Like, why would he let this happen to me? Or what did I do wrong so bad to deserve this? Or
Yeah.
Coming
out to where you're at now, almost like a reborn person, somebody, I mean, because it really, I mean, that shift in your thought process, right? Of like, I do deserve more.
Yeah.
I am worthy of love and respect and happiness. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? But it's that little shift in your thought process. How do you feel about all of these things that you experience in your life now? Do you feel like they had to happen?
Yeah. I feel like the things had to happen or I wouldn't be here.
Amen.
I had to struggle and learn how to get back up on my feet and go through the hard times, you know, by myself. I don't feel like my grandma was there. You know, she would sit through my bullshit and let me get away with stuff and not challenge me or, you know, ignore my phone calls and almost enabled me to do whatever I wanted. So I needed this wake up call. Like, go sit in jail for 3 months. Get your get your mind right.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I know before we started the show, you told me that you've been working at this place since 2009. Is that what you said?
2017.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started caregiving in 2004.
Okay.
And I fell in love with it. Just the intimacy and getting to know their stories and hearing them. And that became my passion for a long time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So up until you started working at ARC, you didn't really work in this field at all?
No.
That was a similarity that we share is before I started working in this field, I worked with geropsych and people that had dementia and Alzheimer's. And it really does. It makes you appreciate life. Well, it depends on how you look at it because it's very sad in those units as well because there's a lot of people that just get kind of thrown in there and left alone. But to know that you can be that point of contact to a person in their last days that offers them love and respect in those last days, it feels good to know that you can play that part. Oh, it really
does. I look at it as if I can enhance what quality of life they have left, even if it's 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 seconds, I did something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And when did the wheels start turning for you to come here? How did all that work out?
When I was in the Haven, they were like, you can take an RSS class. And I was like, what is that? But I said, I'm here all the time, so let's try it. Like, why not? And I sent through the classes and got the certificate. And when I was looking for a job, you know, after I got out, I was like, I got to find something. Like, I have the certificate. I don't use it. So when I came and got interviewed, I was like, I've never done this before, but I have a story to tell. And I think I will help somebody, even if it's just one person. Let me just try it. And my first group, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I had a big group, like 63 people. Just me.
Man.
And I told them, I said, look, I'm nervous as fuck. Like, don't give me a hard time today, please.
And they're probably super cool with you.
Now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that just the other day we went to, I think it was the hotel, or no, it was PTL to go talk. And I walked in there and there was like 60 people in there. And they're like, yo, make your announcement. And it's like, dude, like it never gets easier.
No.
But it's a lot better when you start get to know the clients, you know what I mean? But that first day, I could only imagine.
No. And it took me a long time. I never, ever shared my story because I guess in a sense, I didn't want to relive those emotions. I'm doing so well. And I know that my fucked up emotions is why I use. So why do I want to bring them up?
Yeah.
But I shared my story one day and I think it gained me a little bit more respect. I wasn't just the new RSS that came in. I could relate to them. They could relate to me. I could give them, you know, an empathetic shoulder to lean on or whatever they needed at that moment. And they came around. Like I got letters from women in the program that telling me how powerful it was and how thankful they were that I shared because they didn't think that somebody could relate to their abuse or their trauma that they went through.
And that's one of the beautiful, beautiful parts about the healing process is that, well, for one, you just hit the nail on the head, is a lot of us feel like our story, the trauma, whether it's any type of abuse, you know, the horrible shit that happens, losing people, the pain that we feel like we're alone in that.
Yeah.
And it's like when you really look at it and like from the outside looking in, it's kind of like a silly thought to have, but that's exactly how a lot of us feel, is we feel like we're alone in it.
Yeah. And the first time I shared my story, I left out the domestic violence, not because I was ashamed. Like, how did I let this happen to me? And how am I going to tell somebody else? Like, I don't want anybody to know. But in reality, like, there's a lot of young women and girls that go through it and they're just as scared as me to tell somebody.
And how do you feel about that now? Like allowing yourself to speak about that. I mean, I know, and like I said, thank you again for coming on here. I know
You're welcome.
This is probably way out of the comfort zone for you, you know what I mean? But being able to come and share your story, do you feel like a piece of that weight and that stress is off every time you allow that to kind of go? Yeah.
It makes it a little bit easier. It doesn't make it's not ashamed anymore, but sometimes that pain is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's sometimes when I think about it, like I'll be like, I'm going to share my story today, and I'll be thinking about it on the way to work and tear up like, nope, you're not doing it today. Today's not the day to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a quote for you. Have you ever heard a quote that says, like a beautiful picture, character is developed in darkness?
Oh no, I've never heard that. That's beautiful though.
I think it's real. You know, I mean, it's thinking about some of the stuff that we experience, like, for example, just off the top of my head, you know, my wife and I have gone through a lot of stuff in our marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're in the middle of the shit, you know, if someone was to tell you like, yo, Vanessa, hey, like right when the abuse happens or something, yo, in like 4 years, you're going to be helping people because of this situation. Yeah. You'd be like, bro, get the fuck out of my face. Like, yep. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen because you're in the middle of it. The depression, the shame, the guilt.
Yeah.
But like you said, as you continue to grow in this, like where you're at right now, sitting here, confident, feeling good about yourself, knowing that the things that you've been through can help pull somebody else from the fire. There's nothing better than that.
No, nothing better than that. Just the other day, the client said, Vanessa, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if it's inappropriate. And I'm like, well, I guess say it and I'll tell you.
Yo, shoot, bro.
I'll tell you if it's inappropriate. And he said, I just want to tell you that you hold a special place in my heart. And I said, why? Like, what did I do for you? And he said, my first day here, I wanted to leave so bad. I couldn't sit still in your class. And on the smoke break, you sat down with me and you let me vent to you. And you gave me steps to help the way I was feeling. Instead of letting me run, you encouraged me to stay. And I'll never forget that. Mm. So even just knowing that one person that I helped, or that girl who wrote me a 10-page letter crying because she could relate to my story so much, and me reading it, like, I did what I set out to do. I helped one person today.
Wow, that's cool. And do you remember sitting down with him? Was there like a discernment you felt, or like you just sat down with him and had a conversation?
Yeah, he was super anxious. He wanted to talk to somebody that doesn't work in IOP. And I was like, I don't think I can make that happen, but let me just send an email and see what I can do. And just that, me acknowledging his feelings and giving him that, okay, she's going to try to help me. I think everybody needs that.
Yep. Yeah. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, man, so you're here and you're grinding it out at ARC. You're working with the IOP program. I always say this, not even trying to be biased. You know what? You can call me biased. I don't even care. But you know, working with Ray, he's one of the most solid people I've ever met in my life. I love Ray unconditionally. So I feel like you're in the best place that you can be with Ray, you know. I definitely want to congratulate you for as far as you've come and for your strength and everything. And honestly, dude, I mean, I could sit here and I could bullshit. I'm a horrible liar. I'm not good at it or whatever. But I could see your strength, like sitting here talking. The fact that you came in here and did this, and the fact that you're here and you're doing what you need to do. Bro, you're a rock star, and you're kicking ass every single day, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you in here. Thank you.
I'm so glad you let me come in. I appreciate it.
No, it means the world to me. You know, I hope and pray that whoever is on the other side of this podcast, that's the goal, is that if somebody is dealing with physical abuse from a person and they feel like that's the best that they're going to deserve in their life, they don't deserve anyone else who treats them with respect and loves them, or their kids or whatever it may be. We hope and pray that these can start making those wheels turn, and that it can hopefully help. You know what I mean?
I hope, like, you know, maybe I'll go start my little TikTok lives and see what I can do. And maybe that one person will reach out that's really struggling, and I can tell them that struggle is real, you know, but you can get through it.
Heck yeah. Well, hey, I'm doing my TikTok thing too. So if you start, I open it up for collabs and I'll go on there and we can help each other out.
I make TikTok videos, like pictures of myself, and go on CapCut and do all these little things, but I never go live or open up to anybody because I'm not sure how I want to do that.
Okay, well, let's work together, man. We're homies now. We got a chance to sit and have a conversation. I can show you and I'll add you on there that way, because I'm really like, I just got into a conversation with the dude. It's so weird how this shit happens. I've had this inkling to want to start to do like physical fitness channels.
Yes.
Because I like working out. And I started a video maybe it was probably like half a year ago in my garage. Like in the morning, I just put up the camera and I was like talking about my story and, you know, where I came from and what I want to do. And I just sat on it for forever.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, I got a message from a dude. He's like, hey, your real name is Tony Guzman. And I said, yeah. He goes, did you by any chance go to like this school in Miami back in the night? I was like, nah, dude. And he goes, oh, okay. And I was like, I apologize. And then a couple of days later, he goes, hey, man, I know we don't know each other, but like, I'm trying to be a fitness influencer. He's like, and I got this killer chest workout. Like, do you think I could send it to you and you could like review it for me or whatever? And all I kept thinking was, it's kind of cool how certain connections just like this kind of happen, because I told him, I reached out to him. I was like, dude, I've been so nervous to start this TikTok thing or this YouTube thing because I'm afraid of how people are going to respond.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like anything else. If I do a fucking push-up incorrectly, my homie, your shoulders aren't in, right? Like completely take the wind out of my sails, right? And I told him, I said, dude, send me the workout. And he was like, all right, I will. And the way I keep thinking about it is like how cool that is. There's those random connections that you don't expect, right?
Yeah.
Him sending me that, now it gives me something to work towards. Like, I'm going to do this video.
So that's so funny. So I started on this weight loss journey. I was like kicking ass, eating well, going to the gym. And this little incident happened at the gym. And I don't go as much as I used to. You know,
just leave everything open to interpretation.
Little, like rowing water machines, and you pull yourself and you
are those the ones where you're like sitting on your butt and you're like doing like this movement? Yeah.
So I don't know how my left foot came unhooked out of the little thing and I slipped off the seat backwards and fell into the little hole.
For real?
Yes, and nobody helped me, nobody nothing.
Oh man.
But when I finally got up, which I felt like I was in that hole forever, like I couldn't get up. When I finally got up, I was laughing so hard, like how does this happen? And I just kind of stopped going every day. But I reached out to a trainer today, like, hey, I'm ready to get back on track. I need to.
Well, dude, see, that's what I'm saying. This is all meant to happen, right? Yeah. We're all part of the same team. Dude, I'm down. We can help each other out.
Let's do it.
It takes a village, man. It really does take a village. That's so cool. Well, Miss Vanessa, thank you so much for coming through again. Last thing, is there any advice or anything that you would like to say? Anything positive? Anything you want to put out to the world before we finish up?
You know, the main thing that I tell myself all the time, and I would tell everybody, do not give up. Recovery is fucking hard. And you're going to have days. I'm an addict like everybody else, and I still think about using sometimes, but I know the chaos it brings. So don't give up on the hard days. It's rough, but you will get through it.
Ooh, amen. Beautiful words. Ladies and gentlemen, get up out your seat. Miss Vanessa, one more time. Coming through and doing her thing, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been on this spree real quick, going around and hustling to try and get this podcast out there. I'm going to ask if you guys please, I need your help. If you guys have a family member, somebody with an incredible testimony, somebody that you think when you talk around your family, you're like, yo, this person is incredible or she's incredible. If you know they got an amazing story, please have them hit me up, man. I want to get them on here because the world is getting ugly. We need to share positivity with everyone. So I'm going to ask you guys to please have the family members hit me up, have your friends hit me up, whatever it may be. And thank you for continuing to support the show and sharing this with your friends and your loved ones or whatever. We will definitely see you guys next week. Much love. Have a beautiful rest of your week and God bless. Peace. What's going on, everybody? This is Buddha from the RCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody in need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the RCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.